Well, hey, it's Rob. How are you? And I got something cool in the mail today, all the way from Australia. I mean, it's amazing that I could even find out that someone had this all the way in Australia, and I could purchase it from them. I spent too much money on it, and they could send it all the way across the planet, and it shows up in a couple weeks. And here it is. So I was hoping, and I'll say this right off the top, that this was really an original test pressing from Bernie Grundman mastering. Let me show you a picture of old Bernie right now. So Bernie Grundman is one of the premier mastering engineers in the country. He had a studio right next to Ocean Way, which was in Hollywood. That was the studio that owned Record One in Sherman Oaks, where Michael Jackson recorded Dangerous, so there was a connection there. I'll get into it a little bit later. I tagged on a bunch of extra content at the end of this video, knowing that this was already in the mail, and I explained in depth about what these songs are and my experiences with them, and I'll probably repeat myself a couple times, but anyway, I worked at the studio where Michael Jackson recorded Dangerous, a studio called Record One in Sherman Oaks, California, on Ventura Boulevard. I didn't do anything important. I was the guy that got lunch. Anyway, so I know a lot of these songs on this disc, and they've leaked out over the years. I'm not going to play any copyrighted music in this video, except I did a little quick cover version of one of these songs, because I really like this song, and I, wish that it had been released at some point, and it hasn't. But anyway, other than that, all these songs have leaked out, and you can hear them on someone else's YouTube channel. So what is this disc? Well, again, I was hoping it was original, but I think probably it is just a copy of the original disc. I thought, first of all, why would someone copy this disc? Because no one really even knows what mastering is, and why would they make an exact copy even of the image on the disc? But I found another guy in France with this same exact disc, so it's probably a fake. But the music sounds great on it. These are the final versions of some of these songs. They have been remixed. Some elements may have been added to them. It's very possible I have something on this disc that is not, readily available on YouTube or whatever, a cleaner version maybe, or a version that's slightly different. I don't know, these songs well enough, even though I worked in the studio for 2 years to say, and I'm not an expert in unreleased Michael Jackson music. Anyway, let me just explain what this is 3 minutes into this video. So this would have been a disc that they would have made to play to the record executives at Sony and to play to producers and anybody involved in what would have been the special edition release of Dangerous around 2001, the 10-year anniversary. Dangerous came out in 1991 in November. So they were compiling these bonus tracks, and they were, just putting them together for people to listen to and consider. And so they maybe would have pressed, 40 or 50 of these to give to the people at the record company who could all listen to them and come to a consensus maybe on, 2 or 3 bonus tracks they would have added to the, finished album, or, whatever they would have done. But again, the special edition of Dangerous never even came out, not for the 10th or the 20th or the 30th. They've never done any special edition really with any extra tracks. Now, as we all know, Michael recorded dozens and dozens of songs during the Dangerous sessions for sure, and across his career that never came out. And I enjoyed a lot of these songs, and a lot of these I'm very familiar with, just having heard them for 2 years in my life. And again, they've leaked out, and you can find them on the internet, and I'll go into a lot more detail, a deep dive into these songs in the second part of this video. So anyway, what is mastering? What is Bernie Grundman? So Bernie Grundman, like I said, is the premier mastering engineer in the country. There are a few other guys, but he's been mastering records for 50 years. Mastering is when you take 12 different songs that have been recorded maybe at different times and in different studios, or even if they were all recorded at the same time, they're all going to sound slightly different. They have different instruments and different levels and things like that. So mastering is the final step before you print an album, before you press the record, and it smooths everything out. It makes it more of like a whole rather than a bunch of separate parts, each track being separate. It, brings everything together, and like I said, smooths it out, makes it sound more like a record than just a compilation of a bunch of different songs. That's basically what mastering does, and they do it different ways with equalization and compression, and they'll do some editing and things like that. They'll work on the fades to the songs, the silence in between the songs. They'll sequence the songs in order and that kind of stuff. That's what mastering engineers do. And Bernie Grunman, like I said, is the best in the business. Now, I found this disc in Australia, and I thought, why would this disc of unreleased Michael Jackson songs be in Australia? But Bernie Grunman has a location in Hollywood and in Tokyo. Now, Tokyo isn't far from Australia, so I assume somebody got the actual, one of the actual discs that were copied at Bernie Grunman in Tokyo, and maybe it made its way to Australia, and someone made a few more copies of it, or I don't know, maybe there's hundreds of these copies around. I can't really say, but anyway, they did such a thorough job. Not only did they copy the cover, but they copied, the artwork for the disc as well. Bernie Grunman mastering, let's put it the right way, and it has the date on there. Now, they did 3 different versions of this disc. This is the final version, 11/28/2000. So I know Bill Bottrell went in and remixed some of the songs, maybe added some extra elements or whatever. So this is the last of the line. This is the final version of all these bonus cuts that would have been on a special edition of Dangerous. And what's on here? She Got It, Serious Effect, which is the Brian Lorenz song. If You Don't Love Me, I do a cover of that a little later in this video. It's a song I really like. And For All Time, of course, which was originally left off the record. Monkey Business, another Bill Bottrell song, Work That Body. What About Us, which is the Earth song. And it has the alternate version of Dangerous, which is the version where the studio wall falls on Michael's head and he cries out. It's like 9 minutes long, I think. And so that is what this disc is and what's on this disc. And like I said, I was really hoping it probably, wasn't a fake, and that, I didn't want to ask too many questions. Normally when you find this kind of stuff, I don't want to spook anybody, and I'm, pretty skeptical that if I buy a thing like this from Australia, even on eBay, that it's going to get shipped out, and it's going to be what it says, and it's going to actually have music on it, but it does. And I just popped it in real quick to verify that it has the 8 songs that it says on there. And again, like I said, I suspect this is just a bootleg, a copy of one of the original discs that came from Bernie Grunman mastering in the consideration of the bonus tracks for the special edition of Dangerous. Anyway, so that's about the information that I can give you right here, and hold this disc in the air and show you. I made, like I said, a deep dive into each one of these songs a couple of weeks ago before I heard it. I have not even listened to this other than just to verify it has the songs, and that the songs that it says are on here are actually on here. I may come back again and talk more specifically about what I heard once I do that, but in any case, even though, it might be a fake or copy or whatever, it's still a pretty cool find, especially because I worked on Dangerous. I heard a lot of these songs in the studio for 2 years as they worked on them, and, it's always sad for me to think that they put a lot of work into these songs. They just didn't have enough room on Dangerous to fit everything on there that they wanted to put on there, and that sadly, more than 30 years later, a lot of these songs just remain unreleased. They've leaked out. You can hear them. You can search for them. You can find multiple different versions or whatever. This is a very clean sounding copy. It is definitely a copy of what this is, even though it may be a dub or a bootleg or whatever. It's clean. There's no tape hiss. It really sounds pretty good. It's really the final versions of these songs as far as they ever went to work on these extra songs that are all very good songs in my opinion, and should have been included, at least in a deluxe edition of Dangerous or whatever. By this point, for whatever reason, they just haven't gone back to Dangerous. Of course, we've got deluxe editions of Thriller, and we've got Bad, and we've got extra tracks on a few different releases, and a box set that's come out, and I think Monkey Business and a couple of the songs have come out since then on different albums, on History, which was also a compilation record. Anyway, so go ahead and check out the rest of this video where I get into, more details about these songs. And I'm just happy to have this, and I can't wait to check this out and hear those old songs again that I know and loved. Bye. All right, hey, it's Rob, and this section of the video was made 2 weeks before I received that disc that I just told you all about, explained what it was, why it exists, what they were going to do with it. So I'm just going to go in now and specifically talk about the songs that are on the disc. Again, I'm doing this before I have the physical disc in my hand, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not playing you any copyrighted Michael Jackson music. I don't need to be flagged and have my channel shut down or anything like that. So I will explain, because I don't think I've done that yet, that my name is Rob Disner. I was what is called a studio runner for the Dangerous Project. I worked at the studio Record One in Sherman Oaks, California on Ventura Boulevard, and my job was to go and get lunch. That's it. I did nothing significant, important. I was not a, engineer. I made no musical contribution to the record, nothing. So I just happened to be there in the studio for 2 years during the making of the bulk of the Dangerous record. So now I'm going to talk about these tracks and what I remember about them, if I remember them, and I've got a little supplemental info to tell you about them, and I'll play a couple little clips or things as we go. All right, so the first track on this CDR that I received is called She Got It. And I got to tell you, this is one of the 2 tracks on the record that I really don't remember much about. Now, again, this was many, many years ago, well over 30 years ago at this point. I'm not going to remember everything, although I shared many of my memories of Dangerous over the years, and it's kind of jogged my, recollections of those times and whatever. And, so I have at some points remembered things that, I didn't previously. Anyway, so She's Got It is one of the songs that Brian Loren had worked on for the Dangerous sessions. I've done videos where I've talked about Brian Loren. I should probably do a whole video just about him, but briefly I will explain that Brian Loren was one of the 4 different producing teams, producers, engineers. Actually, there were 5 that worked on the Dangerous record. Brian was there at the beginning. He had worked with Michael previously before even the Dangerous sessions started. He was famous for having a song called Lollipop Love that he released as an artist, but then he started producing people, and however he got connected to Michael Jackson, he started to work on multiple songs for the release of Dangerous. He was in a studio called Studio A. There was Studio A and Studio B. B was a big room with a big, giant tracking room that you could put an orchestra in or whatever. A was a little smaller, and so he was in this Studio A. He was working on multiple songs, 7, 8 different songs, a dozen songs, I don't know. I'm gonna have to try to estimate that he was there for about 6 months. Maybe closer to 8 or 9 months, somewhere in that period, when he was working with Michael and would show up every day and work on these different songs. Now, the tragedy of Brian Loren is that none of these songs made it onto Dangerous. He worked on this record for a very long time. He got very frustrated. He did not feel that Michael was giving these songs the attention they deserved, because Michael, of course, was also working with Bruce Swedien, who he had worked with on the previous albums. He had worked with them on Bad and, Thriller, and for years and years and years, the albums that they did with Quincy. He was also working with Bill Bottrell, who was another producer he had worked with for many years previously, and they were developing songs. And then towards the end of the project, this was after Brian Loren's time, that's when Teddy Riley came into the picture and all those extra songs started coming. So there were just multiple groups of people trying to jockey for position to get songs on Dangerous. Because, of course, if you have one single song on a huge record like Dangerous, someone will still be talking about it 30 plus years later. Of course, that someone happens to be me today, and you will be making what's called mailbox money, where every month you will get a check and royalties, and money will be coming in for the rest of your life if you get a song on a record like Dangerous. So it was very political. There was a lot of competition, and I'm sure Brian Loren thought, and rightly so, I'm working on a dozen different songs for this record, maybe as many as that. something has to come out and end up on Dangerous. I think it's terrible that he didn't get one single song on there, because he certainly could have got any one of these songs that he was working with were probably at least as good as the worst songs on Dangerous. Anyway, let's get into talking about what this is. So this is She Got It. I remember hearing this, although I feel like it wasn't worked on that much. It may have been something they just spent a couple weeks on or whatever. Written in '89 during the Dangerous sessions. Like I said, did not make the cut. There's a lot of improv and stuff with Michael on this song. He's goofing around, laughing, that kind of stuff. Apparently there's a longer version that exists, 7 minutes and 20 seconds, that has a rap in it. I can't comment at the time because I don't have the disc yet. If I have the longer or the shorter version, I'm not really sure. But anyway, we'll hopefully I have maybe cleared that up previously. All right, moving on. Next song is Serious Effect. And Serious Effect right here, another Brian Lorenz song. Now Teddy Riley had a go at it as well. Brian thought that maybe this was really one of the songs that should be on there. I really, remember working on them working on Serious Effect and hearing it just a lot. They put a lot of time into it. Now you have to remember, like, they would start to work on this song, and then Michael would go to, the other studio and work with Bruce or work with Bill Bottrell, and then these songs would sit around, and then they'd come back to it, and they'd do a couple days on it, and then they'd put it on the shelf. And so it was, piecemeal how they did it, and they were constantly like making tapes, making copies. Like Michael would say, I want to hear this again, I want to hear that, so they would be transferring and making lots of copies of these songs as they go, so you would hear them at different various times. Brian said he was very disheartened when Michael said no. There's a great episode of the MJ podcast, I believe, where they talked to Brian Lorenz, and like I said, I mean, he really has a reason to be extremely disappointed with how things worked out with Michael, because he never just, got, for all his hard work, and I'm sure he was compensated and whatever for the work he put in, but he never got past that finish line where he got a song. On the Dangerous record, he did get one song that was finally released at some point, and this one, I believe it says it's been leaked and has not ever been officially released on anything. So we're going to move on again before my computer runs out of battery. The next one is a song that I love, and it's called If You Don't Love Me. It is repetitive, and it's kind of a fluffy, light, cotton candy pop song, throwaway pop song. It maybe is a little too close to Black and White stylistically, and maybe it just was never really developed. The lyrics are just super repetitive, and they basically say the name of the song 1,000 times. I'll play you a clip right now because I did a cover version of it a little while ago, so let's listen to a little bit of If You Don't Love Me. I told the doctor that I'm broken hearted and my temperature's risen to 103. Why don't you write me back and save me, girl? I mean, what I want to hear, like you're missing me. But if you don't love me, you don't love me. Yeah, if you don't need me, you don't need me. And if you don't want me the way I want you, and if you don't love me, you don't love me. And if you don't love me, you don't love me. And if you don't love me, you don't love me. All right, so If You Don't Love Me was written and produced by Bill Bottrell. I think Bill has my favorite songs on the record. Bill is a very accomplished producer, engineer, writer. He is pretty much responsible for Sheryl Crow's career, did Cheryl's first record, did a record by a band called Toy Matinee, which I think is maybe the best sounding record that has ever been released. We used to blast it in the studio because we had it during that time, and you would listen to that record as an example of just the best recording you can possibly make, even though it was 30 plus years ago. It's still an amazing sounding record, great songs. It's just an incredible sonic, statement of, the state of the art of music recording at that time. Anyway, so as far as If You Don't Love Me, like I said, wasn't included in the album. It was considered for the special edition release in 2001. Now that's the disc we're talking about right here. These songs were mastered so that they could be considered for this special release in 2001. That never happened. It says in 2010, the album Michael It was considered for that record, but Trell made a new mix of it, did some small fixes, and it never came out on that. Then the album Escape, they went back again. They did another mix of If You Don't Love Me, and sadly, it just, again, was never included. So it has not been included on any official releases. It is a cute, fun, throwaway pop song, but it's one that I just really enjoy. I just like the vibe of it, the spirit, whatever, and I think it's just a cool little tune. All right, next is For All Time. I certainly remember they put a lot of work into this record. This was a song that they just went at for a long time, and I am, of course, surprised that it did not end up on the record, but it was written by Steve Porcaro. It is a slow ballad. It's very similar to Human Nature, and that's probably why it didn't end up on the record, is Michael was trying to distance himself and come up with new styles, and that was a song from 2 records back. So Steve Porcaro, of course, is from the band Toto. He wrote it with another guy, and he said Michael called up, wanted the follow-up to Human Nature, and they wrote this song and a few other songs that they put on a tape, and they were hoping, of course, to get something on the record, as they wrote a lot of stuff and played a lot of music that ended up on Thriller. And it said Michael recorded it. Of course, it sounds like a finished song. It's not like a demo or a work in progress. It is pretty much a completed song. But then the whole situation happened with Ryan White, who was a kid who had AIDS, who passed away. And Michael was involved with that. And Michael came up with the song called Gone Too Soon. It was another slow ballad. They call this Quiet Storm, slow soul songs. And there just weren't going to be 2 of these on the record. So it kind of knocked off For All Time, and that's too bad. But I believe For All Time, I think I have it right here, was finally released on the Thriller 25 album, even though it has nothing to do with Thriller except that it's a follow-up to Human Nature. But they finally did release that song on Thriller 25. All right, Monkey Business. Monkey Business was a lot of fun. We heard this song quite a bit in the studio. It's another Bill Bottrell song, but it's got heavy samples and that kind of stuff. Bill really does the more rock stuff, the stuff with the guitars. He did, of course, Black or White and Give In To Me. And but this happens to be a song that is more synth and sample heavy. Again, considered for Dangerous. Didn't make the final cut. Monkey Business. Of course, it's cute because we all know Michael loved monkeys. I got to meet AJ the monkey. He brought him into the studio once. I never met Bubbles, but I met AJ. I shook AJ's hand, and he had a super tight grip on my hand. It's a monkey. He's an animal. But he walked around the studio in diapers, and I think somebody was looking after him. He was there maybe half hour or something or other, and someone took him away or whatever, and they went back to work. But I did get to meet AJ. So, of course, Monkey Business, is going to relate to Michael's interest in monkeys. Supposedly, it's written about an affair that had something to do with his brother's Jermaine, maybe cheating on Randy's girlfriend or something or other. That's what I'm reading right here. It's been leaked, like many of these songs have been leaked, and it was considered for different releases, and what happened. I feel like Monkey Business ended up on something, though. Isn't it on like the box set? I think it is. I think it's on the box set. I feel like it did come out. Again, I'm no Michael Jackson expert, but I think it did finally get a release. Work That Body, another Brian Lorenz song. I don't remember this song, so I just have to feel like it wasn't one that they put a lot of work into. Again, they may have done some work ahead of time before the Dangerous project started. They came in with some tapes, maybe just cassettes or demos or whatever. And this is one of them, but again, it didn't make the cut. The only thing that stands out about this is that he sings a line from ABC by the Jackson 5 in the song, and that's cute or whatever, but other than that, the fact that you hear "Sit Down Girl, I Think I Love You," he's calling it out or whatever in the song, that there's really not much to recommend about this song. To me, it doesn't really sound like a finished song or something that they seriously would have considered to put on the record. All right, now the 7th song on this disc is called "What About Us?" That's what we called it for a long time until it became the Earth Song. Of course, the Earth Song did come out on History. That is a huge production that they worked on for a very long time. That's one of the songs that they worked on with Bruce Swedien in Studio B, with giant choruses of people and huge, orchestral, instrumentation and whatever. It's a fantastic song. It's one of my favorites. They worked on it for a very long time on Dangerous, and then for whatever reason, they just could not fit it onto that record. And of course, it's about the environment. There's a little prologue to it that you hear that was recorded before that. A little piece that happens before Earth Song that you can hear. Planet Earth, that's what it's called. I got another little snippet here that the spoken word intro is called Planet Earth, and then they changed the name of the song to the Earth Song. They tried to include it on Dangerous, and then '94 it came out on History, and they have different versions and things that exist. Maybe I talked about that on the top of this video. Again, I don't know what I'm going to say because it's 2 weeks before I actually receive the disc, but that's the Earth Song. Finally, the last one we're going to talk about is the alternate version of Dangerous. And there are many different mixes, alternate versions, different things. The famous one is the one that I have a recording of somewhere that I just have in my archives, and it's the one where famously part of the studio wall falls on Michael's head. I'll play you that clip right now.
Right before I started singing, this huge, I think it was 7 feet tall, this huge wall fell on my head.
All right, so anyway, as far as Dangerous goes, we of course know it ended up as the title track of Dangerous, and it's a song I enjoy. It's a song they worked on quite a bit, and we all know the history of that song, and I probably don't have to go into it. And the leaves are falling down, and I've been going on for a very long time, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. It is very cool for me to own these songs on a disc, and I'm going to protect this and make some backups and whatever because, it's a CDR. It'll eventually will just stop playing at some point, but it's nice to have a lot of these songs that I heard during the making of Dangerous, through the doors and the walls, that I was very familiar with. And everyone has their dream Dangerous track list of what songs should or shouldn't have been on that record. I have my opinions as well. I feel like a couple of the Teddy Riley songs, specifically She Drives Me Wild and Can't Get Her Led Away, I feel like those are just throwaway songs. I feel like there could have been something much better in the place of those two songs on the record. Maybe one of the songs on this bonus cut list should have made it on there instead. We'll never know. And maybe someday a deluxe version of Dangerous might actually come out. Excuse me. I know, of course, why Off the Wall has a deluxe version, because it's really the first Michael solo album that got attention. Of course, we're going to have deluxe versions of Thriller and Bad, because they were some of the biggest albums ever recorded. After that, Dangerous, of course, did not live up to that hype, although it was a huge record in its own right. But for whatever reason, they just haven't wanted to revisit Dangerous. Maybe someday they will, and someday these songs I'm talking about will be released and reunited with some of the original songs that were happening at the same time when Dangerous was recorded. All right, wrapping it up here. Thank you so much for watching. I have a ton of Michael Jackson content. If you want other fun stories, interesting things, I've done a couple podcasts and my own videos. I even have a little book about him on Amazon. So if you just search my name and Michael Jackson, you'll find lots of other stuff out there. Thanks again. I do appreciate anyone watching. And if you want to comment or ask any questions or whatever, I'll try to follow up as I'm able to. All right, take care. Bye.